Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me clearly. How's it going, guys? Today is yet another day where we talk about DevOps, talk about AI, data science, data engineering, and tech in general. Every 2 weeks, we actually come together and share our progress on what's going on in the course of building our career. So while we wait for others to join, let me know if you guys can hear me clearly, and let's start putting in the chat as well what you guys have been up to in the last 2 weeks. In your career generally, what have you guys been doing? If you're learning to become a DevOps guy, a cloud guy, or lady or woman, if you're starting to become anything at all. I know I've been speaking to a lot of people getting themselves positioned for AI and data engineering career. So let's know what you guys have been doing as well. So just put in the chat there. I'd love to know what's going on with you guys. Hey, and what I'm going to be doing, you know how we do it normally. I'm just going to go through the chat as well, just to see what questions you guys have there, and then your update as well. Excuse me. Okay, and then we'll crack on. So the way we are going to run today is to talk about this topic that I know a lot of you guys are interested in. Um, and we're going to dive into it. And I wouldn't want us to look at it from just a subjective perspective, okay, or from a self interest perspective as well. I like us to look at it critically from a data driven angle. So we know what we're doing and we can determine if we're on the right track, if you're making the right career decisions, and all that. Okay. All right. So let me see if you guys, I can see Ibukun Bankole, you're always on time. Always on time every time we start Fireside Connect. Chukudi, I see you as well. Excited to be here. Excited to see you. Iyere, Chinedu, Tariq. It's glad to see you, Tariq. Yes, Olawale, or maybe John Bosco. Yeah, that's good to see you as well. Oluwaseun, good to see you. Kudirat, I see you as well. Well done and welcome to Fireside Connect. All right. So one thing I would like to ask you guys is, what are your thoughts when it comes to when you hear AI? Because that's something that uh, many people have been concerned about. Oh, is AI going to take my job? What's going to happen to DevOps? Is it still going to be worth it? What's going to happen to uh, if I'm doing data analysis? I mean, literally, I can go to ChatGPT and get data for whatever I want, have it analyzed, upload some spreadsheet, and start querying it, and it gives me what. I mean, that's something that some years ago, C-suite executives in organizations would rely on data analysts to analyze data and create some dashboards, and then you know uh, the C-suite can log in and analyze the sales data, the finance data, customer experience, look at the market data. But all that, you can literally do it from the comfort of ChatGPT without having SQL knowledge or Python knowledge or anything at all. I mean, I have tried it and it's so amazing. Sometimes we just mask out data. We download some of the data in our company, mask the sensitive part out. We do some data cleansing and we upload to ChatGPT and literally query it and you'll be amazed at the kind of insights that we get, with charts and everything. Like a year or two ago, I would have to write custom Python scripts to do that. And it might take me hours or even days to get to where I want to be. But now in minutes, you can do that. And the first question that you will hear someone is, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my job? I've been learning data analysis for the past God knows how many years. What's going to happen? AI is here. Is my job going away? Anyway, we'll go into all of that today, and I'd like to look at it from a very different perspective. We're going to analyze some data, and we'll do some back and forth discussion around that too. Okay. Now, one thing I would also like is to 1 second. Okay, let me see if you guys have been putting. So one thing I like is for you guys to start putting your updates in the comment, because that's very important. That's the core of this session, because this is the third episode of the Fireside Connect, and we made the decision that every 2 weeks we're going to be have our community stand up, where we catch up on the things that you guys have been working on. Okay, make some updates on it, and then we can talk about those things. So please, let's not lose the focus, even though we'll make sure that the discussion has content that is very valuable. At the same time, it's not just going to be looking at your updates and just talk about your updates. It'll be nice to also have real world content that makes sense to you guys and really impact you guys. And what we will do from time to time as well, like we did in the second episode, is to bring industry experts to the show and let's hear from other people, because what we want to do is to detach Diary.io or externs completely from the value you get from here. And what I mean by that is, without making it seem like we're trying to sell our products, which we operate a talent infrastructure. So it won't seem like, oh, we have to sell the courses and all that we are offering to you. What we want to do is to make it valuable for you to make proper decision as it affects your career. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. All right. So about us, just from an introduction to those who are joining for the first time. And by the way, if you are joining the Fireside Connect for the very first time, it would be nice to identify you. So please put in the chat section there and let us know if this is the first time you're joining us, okay? So, Diary.io, who are we? Well, we have a talent infrastructure, like I always like to call it. And we have an AI-powered contextual learning platform that literally anyone can leverage to launch and advance their career. Okay. So in tech, specifically in tech, we started off with cloud DevOps, and naturally, that's because that's my bread and butter. That's what I do professionally. I've been in the industry now for about 10 years. And started my career as a SQL Server DBA and Oracle DBA as well. And did a lot of Linux administration stuff, went into big data, Hadoop, and then got into cloud and a lot of automation stuff. And, been part of the British government, working with HMRC, the Home Office, for many years, part of the Brexit projects during the Brexit period. And one of the things that happened during that time was I was part of the teams that were building massive amount of projects, and we needed engineers across different angles, Java developers, DevOps engineers, data analysts, software architects. And it was really hard to get quality talent in. Most of the people that will come through the door for interviews were people with book knowledge rather than on the job type of experience, real world experience, So given that experience, I just thought I could put a platform together that would have series of real world documentations of projects that you can lay your hands on and take that to the market and pretty much use it to, uh, you know, advance and convince an employer that you have the skill and they won't doubt you. And that's been happening in the last 3 years, where a lot of people use the platform, uh, go through a lot of projects right from the start, focusing on Linux, shell scripting, and then Ansible, Terraform, infrastructure building and configuration, and clouds, specifically AWS. And recently we started putting Azure into the mix. And, containerization, orchestration, all those sort of things. And that has really helped a lot of people. Now, fast forward, now we have launched our data analysis track, cybersecurity track, and also we are working on a lot other tracks in the background to introduce, especially AI and data engineering side of things as well. Okay. Well, so far we have a 40 plus team across the UK, Nigeria, USA. So we have legal entities in those countries, and we have a unique contextual e-learning platform. You can't find it anywhere. It's our own proprietary technology that we have put together to leverage AI and also project-based learning and some other research concepts to help people drive their experience when it comes to learning. Because let's face it, tech is not easy to learn. Now, I know exactly what that is because learning tech myself and the journey that I've been through, I can tell you it's not easy. You need support, you need guidance, you need someone to show you the ropes and not to waste time, but actually to be able to focus on what really matters. Okay. So that's very important. And that's what we do. And we do that very well. All right. So that's enough about Dio.io. And recently we launched the externs. So I believe some of you guys have joined the externs. If you're part of the externs, please drop a shout out in the chat section as well. And let us know what so far been part of the externs. And what we do as externs is literally take people who have graduated from our Dio.io training, put them on the job, pretty much. Right. So you'll have access to real world projects, Jira tickets with descriptions and acceptance criteria, work collaboratively with other engineers, create your pull requests, get personalized feedback on your work, and literally move on like that. So that's amazing, and that's our strategy to launching our talent as a service offering to organizations that are looking for talent that can hit the ground running from day one. Okay, so enough said about that. So what's our agenda for today? So I've literally just done the first part, which is to talk about us, Dio.io, extends.ai. And now we're talking about the agenda. Again, community stand-up. The main reason for this is every 2 weeks for us to come together and get stand-up on your progress. Very important. Okay, very important. So that's why I'm going to be looking at the chat section so that we know what you have achieved in the last 2 weeks. If you haven't achieved anything in the last 2 weeks, let us know. Okay, so that next 2 weeks we come together again and you say, I haven't learned anything. Well, it's just you reminding yourself that you're not making any progress. And no matter how little it is, you see, little drops make an ocean. That's what they say. So no matter how little your progress is, it's very important that you can at least record progress. Okay, very important. All right. So in the chat section, make sure you do that, because by the time we go through all the things we're here to discuss, I'm going to go through the chat section and then read about your progress. And if you have questions as well, I'll take some of your questions. All right. Now, why is this discussion very important? We'll go through that as well. And actually, since we're on that page, because I guess the next slide is just going to go straight into the, the the data side of things that I have to show. But what I would like to say here is it's very important we have this sort of discussion for career decision making, because if you've decided you want to get into tech, you want to do tech, right? In tech, there is so many angles that you can focus on. You know, the technical side of things in tech, and there's the non-technical side of things in tech. Okay, so when you hear things like project management, Scrum Master, business analysis, they're not the technical side of things in tech, but bear in mind they are also technical in their own way. Okay, so because obviously you still have to learn things specific to those areas in that particular career, but our focus is more on the technical side of things here. Okay, so it's very important that we understand reasons why we have to make career decisions. And it's one thing to make a career decision and stick to it and go by it, but it's another thing to understand how to look at trends to know how you can adjust your career while you're within it. That's very important, because you don't want to be that person that will start something, and then by the time you're done learning it, the industry has moved away from where you started. Right? It's moved away from the destination that you are hoping to get to, if that makes sense, right? So if you remember my introduction, I started talking about the fact that I started my career as a SQL Server DBA, Oracle DBA, and then I went into big data, and then I got into cloud, and now I'm doing DevOps, and now the industry is moving to a different career, or focus entirely around AI. So it's very important to be attentive to what's going on in the market and understand where to look at data and how to analyze data to make those career decisions. Okay. So making data driven career decisions is very important. All right. So historically, IT jobs in the UK and US has always been very lucrative, and it still is. Okay, but given that AI is coming into the mix now and many other things happening around us, it rings certain questions in our minds to say, well, is DevOps still relevant? Should I still focus my career in trying to become a DevOps engineer? Okay, we should bear in mind again that when we say DevOps engineer, there are many things that is associated to that. Okay, so in the last Fireside Connect, I think we did talk about what DevOps is. So if you're here for the first time and you don't know what DevOps is at all, you may want to check that video out. Okay, there was a question in there where I literally went into some detail on what DevOps is particularly. Now, for those who do not know what DevOps is, who knows what DevOps is as such, and you're already on the journey, you should also realize that most of the DevOps tools and technologies that you're learning will allow you to work in different capacity. So you must have heard things like platform engineering, SRE, cloud engineer, solutions architect. All these titles, you will be in a position where you can actually apply for them when the time comes, because the kind of skills that you would have acquired, they're very, very relevant to any of them. You just have to then focus specifically. It's just like trying to specialize after you've gotten into something. If you study medicine, for example, you can then specialize and become a surgeon or an optician, or whatever. That's basically what it is. Okay. And to set some context as well, the reason why some of the data that we'll be looking at is focused on the US market, even though I'm in the UK, it's very important to analyze data from the US and then look at the UK and then you can look at other parts of the world, because economically, anything that happens in the US affects the rest of the world. I'm sure we all know that by now, you know. So yeah, so it's very relevant, the data that we'll be looking at. But in the UK, at least I have lived the period where you get a £600 per day DevOps role, right? I mean, I've done 750, 800 per day, you know, and that's the reason for that is the opportunity is okay. The opportunity in the market is very key, very relevant, and it's very important I highlight that, because for you to know, okay, so that you don't waste your time when you're learning something. You want to look at it from a remuneration perspective. Say, okay, why am I learning this? Why am I doing this? Is it important? How much of what am I going to gain from it? You know, passion, interest, yes, 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 I understand that. But trust me, the reason why a lot of people spend their time and go through the pain to learn things that are very technical is because of the reward that you can get at the end. Now, reward can come in different forms. Some people do it because they want something that can allow them to work from home, or any other reason. Sense of satisfaction is part of it, but in reality, without the remuneration part of it, being able to live the kind of life you want to live, you know, um, it's it's basically going to be it's basically going to be something to look into. Someone sent a message, and I was thinking, am I live or not? You know, someone said, is this a live? Oh, okay, is this a live session? Oh, yes, it is a live session. I thought the question was, is this session live? Because last week I was already talking and I didn't click the go live button, so just to make sure that that didn't happen. Okay. So in the and by the way, what I mentioned just now rather is relates to the contracting world in the UK. So 600, 750, 800, whatever pounds per day is in the contracting world. Now there's a lot of nuances around that, inside, outside IR35, and all that taxation nonsense, but that's a discussion for another day. Maybe we'll have a discussion around that. But basically, most people who learn start their career out on the permanent side, obviously, because you're just getting into the industry, so you want to make sure that you're in a more comfortable environment, and the starting salary is usually around 75, 85K, although the dynamics are changing a little bit because of the financial situation right now, the layoffs and all of that. So now we're seeing somewhere between 60, 65K, but usually is somewhere around that 75, 85K. And I'm not talking about, junior roles. We're talking about, mid to senior. If you're thinking of learning this with a expectation that you're going to start applying for junior level roles, you'll be surprised that you'll be disappointed. And that's just a fact, because um, companies spend millions of dollars or pounds on IT projects, and the last thing they want to do is to get people who do not know what they're doing in to mess about with projects that have very strict timelines, So that's why you would see more of mid to senior level roles out there. And literally everyone that graduates from our advanced program and goes into the extent program and are able to get exposed to how things are done in the real world, they literally go for the mid to senior level roles, and they don't disappoint. So that's a very, very interesting thing that I'm proud of as well. Now in the US, you should be seeing somewhere around 150 to 180K from the permanent side of things. Some people even 200K. Now the dynamics are changing at the moment because the market is a bit shaky right now, but we'll get into the details of that. Okay, but the market dictates the entire roadmap, and that's what we'll be looking at. So let's have a look at the data. And one of the most important, now I've got a question actually, and this will lead us into the next set of slides. And this, I would like you guys to interact with it and just respond in the chat. move on to the next slide, and that is, what is the most important variable that affects job and wealth creation? What is it? What can you think of? Right? Look around you, look at the economy, look at your countries, wherever you are. And when it comes to job creation, wealth creation, and all that, what is that factor? It could be one or two or three or whatever it is. I like to read from you guys. What are those things that affect employment, wealth creation, and all that? What is it? Now I'm looking at the comment now. I want to see what you guys have to say. Give me ideas. Okay, Linux says economic policies. Okay, economic policies affecting how much of job is created, or how wealth is being created. That's a good one. Economic policies. Afolabi says inflation. Yeah, I like that. Inflation. And Wale says interest rates. And NS says political situation. Yeah, like all this war going on and all that, right? Okay. All right. Thanks for all that contribution. Actually, you guys are right. You guys are very correct. If you said inflation, if that's the next thing on my slide, if you said economic policies, and that relates to interest rates as well, because the policy set by the central bank would determine how it's affected. Oh, I like what you just said, Samuel. Demand. That's very, very important as well. It's part of the slide as well. Okay. And then Chukwudu said population growth. Shadrach says everyone talking about senior roles when there is so-called seniors retire who will pull up the industry. I don't know what that means. I don't understand that. All right, economy. Daniel says technology also affects. Yes, that's very important, because like we've seen right now, AI and all that is coming out, and obviously that would affect a lot of things. Ernest also mentioned that technology development, AI revolution. Yeah, that relates to what Daniel just said. And someone said, so if AI ML is taking over, why is DevOps relevant? Good question. And that's part of what we are going to be talking about here today. So stick around. Yomi says insecurity. Insecurity. Well, obviously, if you're not secure in a place, you don't want to go there. And in a way, yes, it does affect things like maybe investments, right? Companies will not invest in places that are not secure, and obviously affect the job and all that. Okay, that's all very good. Okay, so now one thing I want to say is the next slide actually highlights most of the things that you guys actually said. So there are certain market variables that I've highlighted. I may not have used what you said, but they're all related. So inflation, number one, interest rates, which talked about the economic policies that someone mentioned the other time, and employment/unemployment rate. So the reason why I put that last part there is because the first two affects employment and unemployment rate. And when I was looking at the data, it just makes sense how the whole thing goes, right? And one thing I would say is there's nothing new. Nothing is new. Anything that is happening right now has happened before, okay? And there's something about data. History repeats itself. So when you start looking at the charts, you realize that it sort of gives you hope, again, in case you're thinking of giving up about things. Now, there's a website called the Fred, I think, Federal Reserve Economic. That's what it is. Let me look at my other. So let me put it in the chat. So for those of you guys who have not seen it, I've just put the link in the chat, right? So you can just type in anything there. And it's very important that you use this a lot because it has data that you can look at from time to time. Okay. Now, the Federal Reserve database in the US keep track of all these things, the inflation, the interest rate, employment rate, and all those things. And the rates at which the price of goods and services is rising is basically what inflation is. Okay, so if you're hearing that next time, if things are expensive, the rate at which things are going up, are high, that's inflation. But generally speaking, inflation rate needs to be kept at a moderate level. Too low, it should be too high. So when it's high, something has to be done. When it's too low, something has to be done as well. And that's where the economic policies come in. So the government is responsible for setting out certain policies that will stimulate the economy. So during high inflation, central banks may increase interest rates to combat the high inflation, and analyzing the US inflation data, interest rates, and economic data. That's what we're going to be looking at. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. Okay, I couldn't actually zoom it in, but what I would like you guys to do is to go to that link that I've just shared, the fred.stlouisfed.org, and type in the inflation. And what you will see, you're going to see for 10 years. So it's a 10-year break-even inflation rate. And what you want to look at there is at what point does the inflation rise and at what point is it down? Okay. That's something you can look at it on this chart, just to see where it's high and where it's low. It may not make any sense to you right now, but just keep it in mind because we're now going to look at all the data and see the connection. Okay. Now, what I would like to do is, what we've just seen right now, the previous slide is actually talking about in the last 10 years. Let me see on this part so that, because it's not very clear to me as well. Okay, so the 10 years up until now, basically. Okay, so you see 2020 towards the right, and then, the remaining part, it talks about the inflation in the last 10 years. But what I also want to look at is inflation during 1965 to 1985. That's a period where we can also see how things happened. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is there is a range of number which statistically government wants inflation to be. Okay. So we're talking about between 2 to 3%. So if you look on the left axis, you can see from 2 all the way to 14. And if inflation rate is that high, then there's a problem in the economy. So the government will try to bring it down to somewhere between 2 and 3. If it's below 2 and even below 1, that's deflation, and we don't want to be there either. So it has to be maintained during within a certain period. Okay, so if you notice, in 1965 the economy was sort of okay, and then all the way through to 1966, you can see it was just dangling, and it was sort of stimulated very well at that point. And things started going on, and there were issues happening, things going on where inflation goes up. But the most critical one is there was a period in 1980, where there was really high inflation. You can imagine at 14 or almost 14%, that is extremely high. If we want to be between 2 and 3%, obviously almost 14% is a no-no. There's going to be cost of things are going to be really high. Cost of lending is going to be very, very high as well, and it's just going to be very, very chaotic, whereby businesses cannot thrive enough. And what we're looking at is employment, and if there is not enough investment that will make companies want to hire more people or sustain business, what you would see is layoffs. People won't be able to get job, and it's not a new thing. It's happening right now. This is 2024. Things are going on. Inflation is high, but it's not new. That's the point we're trying to drive at here. On this other slide, what you will see, it's a graph showing the federal funds interest rates within that same period. So here, the interest rate, ideally, we want it to be low, because if it's high, obviously, that is the strategy that the central bank will put in to reduce the inflation. But obviously, when the interest rate is high, cost of lending becomes very high as well. Businesses are going to be more conservative because they want to maintain their profit, and paying a lot of salaries is going to be eaten into their profits, and you see happening is layoffs. And that started happening as well in, I think, last year or so. A lot of layoffs, a lot of companies not hiring, and it's still happening till now. The point we're driving at here is this is not the first time it's happening. This has happened before, okay? And if you look at this chart, this is the employment rate. So where we want to be is with anything more than 90%. You know, obviously you want everyone to be employed and everything happening, bubbling and all that. So looking at the data from 1965 again down to that period, you can see that things were good and the chart was all the way up. But then again, as inflation happens and interest rates go up, it affects the chart, whereby, you know, employment rate begins to reduce. And if you look at the 1980 period, where there was a very, very serious problem and interest rates were increased, you can see the rate of employment was also at the lowest at that time. Okay, so what we'd like to do now is to zoom in again at the last 20 years to this moment, because we're looking at 1965 to 1982 or so, right? And now we're looking at the last 20 years, which is since 2004 all the way to 2024. And one thing you notice here, which is this is the inflation rate. If you look at around 2020, when we had the pandemic, you know, look at how high inflation has gone. And then, you know, a lot of things happening again. There's war happening in Russia, in Israel, and everything is affecting all the way till now. And the next thing you see, similar pattern, interest rate. So interest rates start going up again. You can see where in 2020 as well, you know, that's what the government does. They will increase interest rates, and ultimately it would affect the employment rate again. So to summarize, the point of all this chart is whether you're in DevOps, AI, data analysis, machine learning, whatever it is, okay? One thing is very important to know, that economic forces will drive employment rate up and down. So if you're in a situation right now where you're feeling like, oh, there is no IT job, things are not happening, they're laying people off and all that, it's just normal, right? It's just the way the economy goes, and government will put policies in place that will stimulate these things. So if I were you and you're learning right now, well, what you're trying to do is to prepare yourself for when the economy stimulates again, and then for the period of time you're going to enjoy that. And again, you have to expect that somewhere down the line, something is going to disturb the economy, and then things will start getting into a bubble again. So it's just the way things happen. I missed this this slide. I actually had all the charts in a single slide, but maybe after this, you can send me an email and then I can send this slide to you. Okay. All right. 1 second. Just bear me 1 second so that we don't get into that same issue where my my laptop battery died. So my battery is about to die, so I'm just going to go off for a brief moment. But while I'm away, you guys can just quickly have a look at the conclusion. Have a read at that. Okay, I'll be right back. Just 1 second. Okay, so as we were looking at the data, so the conclusion really is that there's a lot of learnings from 1965 to 85, and then the repetition in the last 20 years. Okay, so then the next question is, okay, well, we have disruption coming to take our job. What do we do? Okay, well, when it comes to making career decisions, one thing I like to do is to use trends. Let me see if I can share my screen actually, so that we can actually build this data together. So there's something called Google Trends. If you haven't worked with it before, I don't know how to share my screen on this thing, but let me see. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, okay, I see. Okay, good. I found where to share screen. All right. So I want to go to Google Trends, and what we're going to do is to have a look at. Okay, can you see my screen? So let me search for Google Trends. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's switch to the United States and see. And what I would like to do is to see how trending is DevOps jobs. Okay, and I want to check that in the last 5 years. Okay, so what you notice is over the last 5 years, you can see a steady. I mean, it's sort of steady. Okay, at this point, and if you know, DevOps started around 2009 ish, and since then it's been on the upward trend. But in the last 5 years, it's actually been sort of stable. It went up a little bit at this point after 2021, and it's sort of maintaining that space. Okay. Now we can compare that with other jobs, because the importance of this is anytime you're making career decisions, you also want to look at the trend and see where things are going. And that was how I actually found myself in the DevOps space, because when I was doing Oracle, I used to think, okay, what's the next thing? What's the trend? And then I analyzed data like this. So let's say because AI is coming in now, let's say put artificial intelligence jobs. Okay. Right. Okay. So what you notice is obviously, AI is coming to take over the world and all that. And you can see what the data is saying, because artificial intelligence job is, on this side, and DevOps is on this side. So at the moment, DevOps is winning, not a problem. But the question is it going to remain like that, or something is going to change? But here's the thing: you have to realize that artificial intelligence itself is very broad. Okay, there are specific areas within it that you can specialize, and that's where you want to start focusing your search. So if I put something here now and say data engineer, because most of the people doing artificial intelligence are actually data people. So you analyze data, you develop algorithms that work on data. That's basically what AI, in a very, very broad perspective, you want to position yourself for data engineering. Okay. Now, if you put that in the last 5 years, you can see the gap between DevOps and data engineering. Okay. Now, if I put something else and I say data analysis, well, actually, let me filter this because I just said data engineer, but I'm interested in the jobs. So, okay, now it's a little bit different, but you can see it's not too far apart from DevOps, but it's still a winner from there. And then let's try to put data analysis jobs, because again, you have to think about it. Data engineering, data analysis, they're not exactly the same thing, but if you're on that path, you want to start from data analysis and then you move into data engineering, which is more engineering focus, right? Building data pipelines, data lakes, and writing a lot of code. I mean, if you want to go into data engineering, you're best going to be really that understands how to work with data. So there are some data engineers who are Java developers, Python developers, and they really go into that hardcore. Okay. But if you are getting started and data analysis is where you're starting off with, someone said data science. Yes. Data science is another. Actually, maybe we can put data science instead. Let's see. And compare that. You can see how data science has suddenly just, gone way up. Now, actually, let me see. We can do up to 5, I think. Let's put one more, cybersecurity. Okay, cybersecurity jobs. Okay, so cybersecurity and data science are somewhere, around similar space, but it looks like, looking at the trend, cybersecurity is even up there. Now, this looks interesting enough, but don't be too much in a hurry. Okay, don't be too much in a hurry to just conclude and say, okay, I'm going to data analysis or data science or cybersecurity, right? Hang on, okay? When making career decisions, you also have to be careful about things that resonate well with you. You have to look at your capacity, you have to look at your background, you have to look at things like the interest of companies that are hiring too. Okay. For example, if you're thinking of doing data science, right, you have to be very, very mathematical. Okay. Data science, data engineering, you have to be very mathematical. You have to be very analytical as well. And you just have to love numbers. Okay. And if you're not that person and you dabble into it, you find out that you are in a career that you're not enjoying. You are struggling, and it's not always about the demand for the job. And by the way, this is where someone mentioned demand at the first time where we started talking about this. Someone mentioned demand, and this is where the demand is. So yes, there is demand for it, but you have to match it with other variables, and part of those variables is your personality and your interest, because you have to be interested enough to want to do a career that is more into calculation, mathematics, and statistics and all that. Okay, so always analyze that space, the career, and what it requires before you jump in and say, okay, I want to go in this direction. All right. But we're still coming to the whole discussion around whether AI is going to take away our job. And that's where I'm going to close on this subject. Okay. Now, one thing is important to understand, that obviously for those who have interacted with Chat GPT and AI and all that, you know of a fact that definitely AI is a no-brainer. Like it's here to it's here to literally make our lives easy. Okay, let me okay, that's my slides back. It's here to make our lives easy. And if you look at companies, they would rather employ technologies that will make them more profit, right? And if AI is going to improve the operations and come about automations and things like that, it's just a no-brainer. They would always tend towards that, right? But always remember that anytime there is new movement like that, which creates new opportunities and all that, it would always create new challenges. There will always be new challenges, and definitely that's where the opportunity is. And that's where you have to focus your attention. That what are the challenges that this is creating, and how can I position myself for that? So it's not a lost cause if you are still tending towards the DevOps side. Why? Because AI is everywhere, in literally everywhere. Okay. There are certain areas within the DevOps space, within the cybersecurity space, that requires AI to even improve what they're doing. Daddy. Okay. So that's my all right. So like I was saying, choosing the right career for you, you have to look at your personal interests and traits. You have to look at location as well, because where you are at the moment, is there demand for what you're looking to do? If you need to go to another place, that's something to consider, because maybe that's where there's a lot of demand. Okay. And another thing to look at when it comes to employment is when there is layoffs and all that, what happens is, there's another chart I saw. I forgot to add it to the slide, but maybe the next time I can bring it up. But basically, it was showing what happens when there's unemployment and there is a part-time sort of work, and there is permanent work. So it's either people are losing their job, and then people who are losing their job are turning to part-time freelance type of work. And the good thing is, if you're in tech, it doesn't matter. So if someone lays you off, you can get on websites like Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer, and you start working, and you start using your time to deliver services. Okay. Now, in 2023, obviously AI revolution began, leading to major effects on 2024, which we're seeing right now. But there is one thing. Within the DevOps space, there is something called AI Ops. Okay. Actually, let me share my screen again oops. Let me share my screen again, and then we can have a look at that briefly. I'm trying to share my screen. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. So there's something called AI Ops, and let's see what it is. All right. So AI Ops, or artificial intelligence for IT operations, is the application of artificial intelligence capabilities such as natural language processing and machine learning models to automate and streamline IT service management and operational workflows. So if you are already in the SRE space, within DevOps, and you are after site reliability and all that, this is an example of areas in which you could also start positioning yourself. But obviously, you need to have the basic foundation to be able to get to that. It still boils down to your DevOps skills, your Linux skills, your Kubernetes skills, and all that. And there's actually a tool called Opni. No, not Opni. Opni, yeah, Opni. So Opni, as you can see, multi-cluster observability with AI Ops, which essentially what it does is, it helps with monitoring and logging of infrastructure using AI to analyze the data and improve upon things like incident management and how the observability is being handled in the organization. So there are many other areas that are spinning up, even within the DevOps space, that if you're still looking into that direction and trying to focus your attention in DevOps, in the cloud, there are many opportunities that you can start looking towards. But of course, you need to start positioning yourself, learning the relevant tools, your Python, your Terraform, your Kubernetes, and orchestration and all that. Companies still require humans to do all those things, even though they are going to be based on leveraging AI and data science and all that. So that's, I hope this has been really informative to you guys, to the point where you can make some really solid decision and you can go ahead and use the strategies to analyze data and make more informed decisions. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start looking at the comments to understand whether you have questions, the progress you guys have made in the last 2 weeks as well. And I'll be reading that out. And if there are questions, and then we can address them. Okay. And I see quite a few first timers here. So welcome, guys. It's nice having you guys here. If to experience our AI platform for contextual learning, reach out to us. You can put in the comment section. If you're not already part of Data.io or external that you're interested, please put in the comment section and we'll reach out to you. You can put your you can actually reach out. You can reach out to me directly at Dari email address, or you can just go to our website and then you can send a message or something. Okay. All right. So I can see Chukudi message at the top saying, I recently completed my first capstone project on Git and achieved a score of 77%. The program has been progressing smoothly so far. That's good. That's very good, Chukudi. Your capstone project, you got 77%. That's very impressive. So make sure you get onto the next one and you strive to score more than that. And let's know what that score is in the next class. Okay, and then Chukudi again says, in fact, when I saw today's discussion topic, I quickly researched whether DevOps is still relevant. While I didn't find a definitive answer, I'm hopeful you'll address this directly today. I hope today's session was quite informative to you and you can make some sense out of it. Okay, Ahanon, welcome. This is your first time. Chinedu, this is your first time of joining the Fireside chat. That's good. So you guys, you can just look forward to it. It's every 2 weeks. We have this Fireside and, we just come up with things. And if there are any specific things you would like us to talk about, put in the chat section as well. And then we can look into getting the Fireside on that. And if there are any specific person in the industry that you feel like you like to come on Fireside, we'll see if we can do our best to bring them in. So you can just mention them as well. Okay, Kudirat is joining for the first time. Josephine for the first time. Welcome, guys. John Bosco, first time as well. Oluwaseun, first time. Tolulokwe, first time. Glory, first time. A lot of first timers. That's great. Ediomo, first time. Adiola says LI. I don't know what that means. Maybe your son or daughter is just playing with the keyboard on your computer. And then another LL. LLLTOMMLL. Yeah, that sounds very familiar when you have little kids. And then another .amp. Okay, we're getting somewhere. All right, so Joseph says hello. John Stacks. Currently, I am learning the concept of Kubernetes with documentations. That's good. The Kubernetes documentation is a great resource to have. It does show a lot of it gives you a lot of insight. And what I used to do, I still do today, but not as much as I used to do before. But what I generally do is I go to their, they have like a blog. So basically, you go to Kubernetes blog, and every time they release something frequently, and then you read about their release notes when they're releasing something new, what's been deprecated, what API has been introduced and all that, and learn about things generally. Okay. All right. Ibuku says mine is more of sense of satisfaction. Okay. In terms of your learning tech. That's good. Chinaza, yes, it's a live session. Okay. And okay, and then those were the questions during the discussion. And then Shedrack says, everyone talking about senior roles. When these so-called seniors retire, who will pull up the industry? Ah, right. I see what you mean there. Okay, the first time I read it, I didn't quite understand, but now I think it makes sense. So they're trying to, and when the seniors retire, then who's going to take it? Well, don't forget, that's the way this world has been created. Every day people die, every day new children are born into the world. That's the way we're being recycled, right? So as those guys are retiring, trust me, there are loads of senior guys that have finished from that Ontario that are waiting to join them. So, all right, so it wouldn't be a problem, trust me. Okay, so okay, so Abdul says, so if AI ML is taking over, why is DevOps relevant? All right, so that probably takes us to talking about why DevOps. Okay, why DevOps in the first place? Okay, if you think about it, all DevOps is about is helping organizations to, get products in the hands of the customers in a fast, reliable, and speedy manner. That's the original concept around DevOps. But how it is done is through collaboration, removing silos, through technology, through people, and when we say technology, we're talking about, like your Kubernetes, your AWS cloud, Terraform, your Linux operating system, all those things put together is basically what DevOps is. Okay. And how is it done? Okay, remember the logo for DevOps. It starts from planning. Okay, you go through planning and then coding and then testing, and then goes through the release and then feedback, and then the loop continues like that. DevOps is going to be relevant because it still requires people. Okay, so we're not talking about the tool around DevOps. Always remember that DevOps is just an idea, is a concept that brings devs and ops together, okay? So that we can release reliable software in the hands of customers. And so, because it requires planning, there are certain elements of technology that you just can't remove the human creativity. As a matter of fact, AI is to help human become way more efficient, right? Think about it this way. You're working on a Linux server and you're trying to maybe configure disk or whatnot, and you're getting an error. Yeah. Before AI, it will probably take you some hours to debug and know exactly where things are and what to do and all that, right? Let's forget about AI. Before search engine, okay, the guys that used to work on the data centers back in the days, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, no search engine, no Google, nothing. Think about it. How long do you think it takes them to debug and find answers? It's definitely not going to be as much as it is in the days of Google. So, in the days of Google, it probably take you a couple hours, okay, or some minutes, or I don't know. But compare that to the days of AI, where in a snap you can become more efficient and get things done. Okay, so DevOps is is relevant and it is still going to be relevant because even the AI we're talking about requires to be developed into a product, right? And that's why, in the world of DevOps, there are many areas. There's DevSecOps, and there is something called MLOps as well, which is machine learning ops. And now you've seen AI ops that I've just shown you. So there will be many variations of this DevOps that is turning towards the AI side that you have to start thinking about. So that's the point we're making here. It is going to be relevant. You just have to embrace the fact that AI is part of the relevance that will make it all work together. So that's what you need to always remember. Okay. So Chukwudi also says, however, in this context, we are discussing AI. Unlike government policies, which are dynamic, AI can only bring improvements. The key question here is, how can we maintain confidence in the continued relevance of DevOps, given the increasing integration of AI into all aspects of ICT roles? So that's exactly what we've just talked about now, which is, you know, you learn DevOps, you learn the technologies, but then again, you have to start looking at areas that makes AI and DevOps, relevant together. So I mentioned AI ops, and I'm sure there are many other ops that will come up as time goes by. Okay, so looking at, okay, Abdul says question one: the DevOps roles are primarily remote or hybrid, right? And question two is it important to know Python before attending this program? So you don't have to know anything before you join the program. Like, just come exactly how you are. Just make sure you have access to fast internet, you have a laptop, and you can afford to buy at least one extra monitor to connect to your laptop. That's all we say. Come with all of that, and then we'll sort you out. And then you're asking whether DevOps roles are primarily remote or hybrid. So I'm not going to say primarily remote. There are lots of remote opportunities, but then again, there are lots of hybrid opportunities. Now, obviously, we've all lived during the pandemic, and we know that during and after the pandemic, it was just a normal for everyone to work from home, right? Now that the pandemic is over, things are picking up again. But what's happening is companies are trying to encourage people to go back to work, go back into the office, and they're introducing hybrid models. So you do 2 days at home, 2 3 days in the office, or whatever. And in some cases, once a month, once to, you know, and you may be surprised. You get to some organizations where you do, when you start, you've all agreed it's going to be once in 2 weeks or so. But once you get in, you probably go to the office once a month or never even go, because a lot of people don't even come to the office. I've seen that happen to even myself and many people around me. So, and some people, even though they say it's remote, they just want to go to the office. It's down to preference as well. Some people just want to make sure they go out of the house, go into a place, and they enjoy it that way. So it's a mixture, remote, hybrid, and all that. Okay. Does one need to learn software development or Python programming before going into DevOps? Nope. So you don't need to learn software development or Python before you go into it. But while you start your journey, Python is going to be one of the things that you have to learn. You know, on our curriculum, we get you solid on shell scripting. First, that's our priority, even before Python. Okay, so Python comes somewhere down the line, but shell scripting is very important. Linux shell scripting, cloud, then infrastructure as code, provisioning, configuration management, then containerization with orchestration. Those are the elements that are very, 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 very important. And once you get all that out of the way, then you can start focusing on areas you want to focus on, SRE, AI ops, ML ops, DevSecOps. You can research into them, know exactly what they are. And that's how you can just navigate and become more focused. Okay. So Adebaya says your program more focused on DevOps or cloud security. So again, that's one of those things, right? When you learn DevOps, things like cloud security is just natural to part of what you get to learn, the skills that you will learn, right? DevSecOps is part of the things that you will become confident at. It's another thing when you have the skills and you want to now start focusing. Okay. You can start focusing on DevSecOps to say, okay, now I just want to understand more about networking, security, IAM, and things like that in the cloud space using DevOps concepts. And that's where DevSecOps is. The second between is security. Okay. All right, so Ayodeji, welcome. This is your first time. Glad to have you here. And Jahazaib, first time. Welcome. Adiola, say sorry about that. Not sure what that was. Okay. And then Lennox says, I recently completed a sysadmin training on Red Hat Academy. That's amazing. That's great. So if you have done sysadmin on Red Hat, that's great. If you want to write the Red Hat certification, that's amazing as well. um, One of the things that we're focusing on the externs program is hardening AMIs using Packer. That's part of the initial projects that you work when you join the externs. So there's something called the CSI benchmarks that I'm sure you must have taken that part of your Linux certification or the training that you've done, how to harden your Linux servers. But then again, from the DevOps world, using Packer to automate that. It's one of the focus. And I think next week we're going to do a demo. So one of the pods have literally just completed their sprint and they're going to do a demo. So we will probably show a demo of that online. So please make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So can someone please put all those links in the comment section so that if you want to follow us so that you are always up to date with what we're doing and what our externs are working on as well. Okay. And if you're a company and you're looking for engineers, reach out to us as well. We can get you go through the externship program, have solid skills and can hit the ground running on your project. Okay. So that's very important. Okay. So Saratu says, I'm a new techie. Welcome, Kudirat. I just started currently learning how to connect this to AWS. That's good. It's one of the new things that you're going to learn how to work with SSH and securely connect to your servers. All right. Daniel says, I completed my last project today as a March Foundation student. What next? Oh, good. So Daniel, if you've completed your foundation, you have a number of options. You can get onto the advanced, or you can sign up to the externs program. So if you're interested in that, reach out as well, and we'll sort you out. Okay. And someone was asking me today, can I start applying for job after completing the foundation program? Excuse me. So my response to that is, even though you have the skills, you've gone through the foundation, you've learned about the cloud, AWS, Linux, Docker, Kubernetes, but always remember it's a foundation program. It's from the foundation perspective. Okay. For that reason, you may apply to junior roles, may apply to, internship opportunities. But like I said before, there are many mid to senior level opportunities out there than the junior ones. Okay. So you may be disappointed when you apply, and there's more competition and you can't really get something through. So what you could do, you may start doing that while you're learning on the advanced side. What you really want to do is to get into the externs, because even when you finish the advanced, you may not have the on-the-job and collaborative experience working with other engineers and being able to go through the Scrum and Agile process to delivering products. Okay, so that's what you get at the extent. So that's the journey really. So foundation, advanced, the externs of foundation, externs, and then the externs, you can be on it for as long as you want till you get a job, because it's about working on projects and carry on doing minimal projects. Okay. Oluwaseun says, when you learn DevOps, what are the job roles you can take? So you can take SRE, that's site reliability engineer. You can take platform engineer, cloud engineer, solutions architects, um, and now with all these AI ops, ML ops, they all have their own layer of expertise when you get started. Okay, so it's just a matter of getting started and just keep pushing it through. Okay, so Saratu says, "Oh, okay. Saratu says, I'll see you in 2 weeks. All right. It was nice having you here anyway. So great." Chukwu says, I remain hopeful because when smartphone cameras were first introduced, photographers feared losing their jobs. Surprisingly, photographers are now earning even more than before. Exactly. And that's quite an interesting thing because, part of the side hustle that I did, back home in Nigeria was I used to do video. So I didn't actually do photography, but I used to do videography. For those of you who have done that before, back in the days, there's some cameras that will put on the shoulder like this, and then you put the battery on the side. M3000, M3500, M10, they're quite different. And I used to go rent the camera, go for birthdays, weddings, burial, whatever event, and that's what we used to do. And then what I used to charge for a 2 hours VHS cassette was the maximum on a good day will be 3,000 naira. I kid you not, 3,000 naira. And in that 3,000 naira, 500 naira, it would be my profit because I'll rent the camera, buy the cassettes, pay for graphics. There's a place in Mushin that I used to go to, to do the editing, post production, and all that. But now, when I look at what what the guys are making now on videography today, is crazy. Like millions, millions, of naira, and some people even charge in dollars, back home. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. Thanks for using that analogy. When new technologies come out, it's an opportunity to innovate and become better at what you do and pivot, and that's just how it is. Yes, Chukwudi, the extern is a paid internship, so it requires a lot of human capital. We deploy tech leads, scrum masters, to support you. Literally, you have access to one-to-one mentorship and all that. Okay, so someone is asking, what's your take on learning Scrum Master and Agile project management? So my take is you can learn whatever you want to learn. Honestly, anything you want to learn, you can learn. Just make sure that you're taking data driven decision. I've shown you how it is. Look at the trend, right? What's the trend? What's going on in the market? Look at job boards. Okay. Another thing you do is go on LinkedIn, put in the Scrum Master thing, and look at the total number of jobs that's showing up, and then look at how many people have applied to it. That will give you a sense, and then you can compare that with other roles as well. Okay. But what I generally recommend for people who wants to go in that line is make sure you still learn something technical because that will stand you out from other Scrum Masters. I've worked with delivery managers in different roles, and one of the things I like about the delivery managers that I've worked with is they have some technical expertise. Okay, so even though they're like project managers, making sure that they can get the product delivered, they have some technical expertise where when they're speaking to technical guys like us, they understand, and in some cases they even prefer solution and tell you do it this way, given their experience working with other engineers and given their own technical knowledge as well. Some of them take AWS certifications, we do some crash course on Linux and all that, so they understand that. I remember one of the roles when I joined the home office one time like that, and during the onboarding period, the engineer that was supposed to get me onboarded didn't come to work. It was a Scrum Master, okay, who happened to be the delivery lead that got sorted my onboarding. He literally got onto the Linux server and did some LDAP configuration to get me onboarded, and that was dope, right? So things like that stand you out from every other Scrum Master, honestly. So it's not just going to be, take a 2 or 3 week Scrum Master role and you think like, okay, now I can start looking for work. I mean, you take a 2 or 3 week or 1 month Scrum Master training and think you can start looking for work. Yes, take that training, but find a way to have technical skills as well. And then on your CV, make sure you put those technical abilities. It will stand you up out. Okay. All right. David Adetimiri says, I'm new here. Welcome, David. And Roland Alobi says, what tools are required for the DevOps training? Okay, I've mentioned that. You just need your laptop and fast internet. Chukudi says, I hope it's not too expensive. It's not too expensive. You can reach out and they will let you know what the pricing is. Will your training cover coding? Because I learned you need to know coding before you can work as a cloud engineer. So coding is very relative. So obviously you're going to learn shell scripting, which is a lot of code. You're going to learn how to work with YAML, HCL. There are specific technologies that come with their own coding that you're going to learn. You're going to learn Python as well because you have to be able to automate things using Python. So learning coding from an object-oriented program is not what we're training, okay? But from a scripting perspective, that's what we're training, all right? So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so this is everything. So it's been a nice catch up with you guys. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you so much, guys. And I'm going to look forward to our next Fireside Connects in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the week.